Hi, it's Paul from Model Builder International. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The link is down there somewhere. That way you'll get notified about future reviews, builds and the giveaways we have occasionally. Today we're going to talk about a new kit from Flyhawk. This one is the 1700th HMS Lance. Okay, so let's see what we get inside the box. Kit FH1115S is the deluxe edition. Without the S is not the deluxe edition. HMS Lance, as she was in 1941, which is about half of her service life before she was sunk. She was only afloat for about a year. Full hull version. This kit has the bonus items, obviously the metal rod, barrels and some extra photo etch in there. And let's open the box up and see what's there. So inside there's basically the cover art. That's, if you Google HMS Lance, you'll see there's a black and white photograph. This basically is from the black and white photograph of her entering Valletta Harbour in Malta. On the back, basically information about the ship, a bit of history. And inside we've got the instructions, usual Flyhawk format. Double-sided glossy paper, layered sprues, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps on there, colour coded where need be, pretty well laid out. Looks like you can actually do a waterline version as well if you wanted to for a diorama. And then over the page, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 steps. Again, colours where needed. And then at the bottom, painting and marking guide. They're named Mr. Hobby Tamiya, white ensign. It all looks pretty good. Reasonably straightforward painting scheme, at least on the whole. So that looks pretty good. As usual, we'll go through the steps next and have a close-up look at some of the parts. This is the bonus photo edge. So railings and some other parts there. There's the barrels and some brass rod. We'll see what those are for. Instructions in the back there. I'll have a look at those as well. Obviously images and scans of all of this will be on the website. In fact, there'll be loads more photographs of things on the website than you actually see in this video. And then we've got, I think this is maybe the photo etch that comes with the kit itself, the non-special edition version, and the decals on the back. And then the box itself is basically cardboard reinforcing in there, and it's sort of folded to compartmentalise it a bit as well. So we have, there's the hull, wrapped in foam, a couple of elastic bands holding it all in place. Have a look at these. And then what we'll do, so it's all wrapped up pretty nicely actually, so nothing touches each other. That's nice detail on the plate detail, portholes as well. The deck looks rather nice. Walkways, raised detail on there. There's the forecastle, same. Details on the bottom of the hull, and there's the plate for the bottom. And then we have a couple of, if I can get them out of here, a couple of bagger parts and some screws here. What have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sprues and some parts there. So I'll open these up and we'll have a quick look at them now. Okay, so we've got the main part, the parts out of the bags. These were in a bag of their own, basically the main armament. I think this is one of the differences between this and the Legion kit that they did earlier. But I'll go through and I'll work out exactly what the differences are in the two kits. So there's some fine detail there, although you could replace that with brass, obviously. ship's masts, propellers. It's all finely detailed there. Take some care in getting them out the sprues. Funnel, which is hollow, and fine detail on the superstructure part there. Usual life rafts and small parts in this format. They're raised and have protection sort of on them, so you can just stand them on the desk and they don't touch the desk. Then we have these two are together. There's an elastic band around them so they don't rub against each other and cause damage. So just take that off there. More masts. Perhaps some of these parts are not being used. Perhaps there's some replacement parts here. Then small parts. Lots of tiny little parts on that one. Fine details. And the last one, ship's boats. Usual great detail actually inside the boats as well. A funnel cap there. And then the last bit is, I always struggle to get these open for some reason. There's small superstructure parts and shields for the guns. So that's it. So obviously it's based on the HMS Legion they produced earlier. This looks like there's some replacement parts in here as well. So let's go through the instructions, have a close-up look at some of the parts and see exactly what the differences are. HMS Lance was the second of the L class, and for Flyhawk follows on from their earlier HMS Legion kit. As I said, HMS Lance was an L class destroyer. She actually didn't last very long. She was commissioned in May 1941. Started off in home waters. She was the escort for the battleship King George V in the search and sinking of the Bismarck. Then she was in the Western Approaches, and then in August 1941 she started working in the Mediterranean, where she was quite heavily involved. She was doing lots of convoy escorts. She escorted HMS Ark Royal and other carriers to Malta at various times. She was involved in the Battle of the Duisburg convoy, where a complete Italian convoy was sunk. And yeah, she was really quite busy. Basically her end came when she was docked in Malta in April 1942, and she was hit by a bomb dropped during an air raid and had serious damage. She was knocked off the blocks and partially submerged. 4 days later she had another bomb hit her, and eventually she was salvaged, towed back to England for a survey, and was declared a constructive total loss, and was scrapped in moved on the disposal list in 1944, and sold for scrap. So she had a very short but also very active life. So a quick overview of the history of HMS Lance in plastic. As far as I'm aware, this is the first ever 1/700th kit of HMS Lance in plastic. I think White Ensign had one, had a master made, but I don't know if it ever made it into production. As far as other kits of Lance go, there's a 1/350th kit by Iron Shipwrights, a 1/200th scale kit is out there somewhere. But other than that, this is the only HMS Lance in plastic, and obviously it's a modification of Flyhawk's earlier HMS Legion kit. So this kit itself comes with 229 plastic parts on 15 threads, plus another 7 separate parts. For the standard kit, there's also 8 photo etch parts as well. For the special edition, there's an extra 105 photo etch parts. Obviously those replace, for the most part, they replace some of the plastic parts, but there is also a lot of extra parts to add on as well, especially the railings and walkways and such like. And there's some brass rods to replace the masts, and you get brass gun barrels as well. Either way, it's a lot of parts for a ship of this size. Okay, the build is made up of 10 steps plus painting, so we'll start going through the steps. So step 1 is basically putting the hull together. You have the choice of full hull or waterline, and in this step basically it all goes together along with the 2-part deck. And already in step 1 there's an extra part that wasn't in the HMS Legend kit, part K81. So there are subtle differences in the HMS Lance kit, differences to the Legion kit as we go through. And then down to step 2, we're on the forecastle, and we're adding in the forward turret, ship's anchor and chains. And then step 3, we're putting together the superstructure amidships. Step 4 is again making more of the superstructure amidships using what we built in step 3, putting those together. Again, there's some subtle differences here from the HMS Legion kit as well. The diagrams are slightly different. Moving on to step 5, we're putting the mast together, again all in finely detailed plastic. Step 5, again the mast is slightly different from that for HMS Legion as well. Then over the page on the instructions, step 6, putting together some of the ship's boats, one of the bofas, and putting the funnel together. The funnel is hollow and has a plastic cap on the top, which is not a solid piece. You can actually see through that as well. Then on to step 7, basically putting the ship's boats onto the ship and putting the anti-aircraft gun and funnel onto the hull. Step 8, we're putting together the aft superstructure, and with two of the turrets. And step 9, basically putting that part onto the main hull and adding the torpedo tubes and an anti-aircraft gun mount. Steps 6 through 9 are identical to those of HMS Legion. And then on to the final step of the build, step 10, adding photo etch and davits around the aft end of the ship, and depth charge throwers, and then we also add the depth charge rails, racks at the back, and some other small parts at the aft. It's very similar to that for Legion. Seems like there's an extra couple of lifeboats that get fitted onto HMS Lance that weren't on HMS Legion as well. So basically 10 reasonably good steps to get the ship together. So now we'll go through the differences on the special edition. Obviously you get brass barrels to replace the plastic barrels. Quite whether you notice the difference, I don't know. You also get a radar, ladders to add those. The radar, you definitely notice the difference. The ladders are new and you're not replacing plastic. There's some other small parts you replace with photo etch. The depth charge racks, not the throwers, but the racks that just roll them off the back end. Those are done in photo etch, but there's no actual depth charges to fit in that, although Flyhawk do a resin set extra. The mast is done in brass rod. There is a difference on the mast, but quite the upgrade from the plastic to the brass is, you probably wouldn't notice, but I think the plastic might be more delicate and a bit more work to get it cleaned up, so the brass is probably the way to go. And then over the page, a new funnel cap, or the framework on top of the funnel, some more ladders on superstructures, and obviously a full set of ship's railings. It's the extra photo etch is pretty much identical to what you got with HMS Legion, the only difference being like a diamond shape up near the top of the main mast. Other than that, it's about the same. But some of the parts, replacing parts, Flyhawk's plastic is so fine that you might not even notice the difference. And then down to painting and decals. Paints are called out by name, Mr. Hobby, Tamiya and White Ensign. Colour diagram, as you can see, is pretty clear. Reasonably straightforward paint scheme. There's no camouflage scheme involved, so that should be pretty straightforward. And you get a small decal sheet as well with the ship's number G87 that goes in 3 places and a couple of ensigns. The decal sheet looks like it's a generic decal sheet that can be used for 4 of the ships, HMS Legion, Gurkha, Lively and obviously Legion. So we might see a Gurkha and a Lively at some point in the near future, since the decals are on the decal sheet. So that's it. By then you should have the ship completely built. So an overall conclusion. It's obviously a highly detailed little kit. With the basic kit has well over 200 parts. For a 1/700th destroyer is pretty high. Add in the photo etch for the deluxe version, and you're probably up close to 300 when you've done all the swapping of PE for plastic. The L-class destroyers and I'd say the M's as well, since they're very similar, seem to be underrepresented in kit form. The only ones out there I see really is maybe the occasional piece of resin or something at a different scale. So it's a welcome addition to anybody who models Royal Navy World War II ships, and it's a pretty awesome little kit. So many thanks to Flyhawk for sending it along for us to have a look at.